Yo, what's going on, guys? Crispy Flakes here. So the NBA season starts up today at the making of this video, and I thought it'd be fun to give you guys my over-under record for every single NBA team. So basically, we have this website pulled up right here, and it's going to give us what the betting odds or whatever of a team's certain record's going to be. And I'm going to tell you guys if I think they're going to get over or under those wins on the season, right, man? So, yes, before we get going on today's video, if you guys don't mind leaving a like, would be greatly appreciated. And, of course, subscribe if you're new to the channel. Let's go ahead. Hopefully the new setup looks okay, by the way, man. I don't know. I'm trying something new out here. So, here we go. Starting with the Atlanta Hawks, man. So, the Atlanta Hawks, they have as a record of 46.5. So, last year, this team had 41 wins on the season. I will say that the Eastern Conference, overall, it was a pretty damn tough conference. 46.5 wins for the Hawks. I feel like this is one of the bigger, up-and-coming teams in the NBA. I'm going to say over on that, but it actually feels about right at about the 46.5 win mark. But I can see them winning, 47, 48 games, especially if guys like DeAndre Hunter can stay healthy and everything. So, they got things figured out with John Collins. Now the team's got to go out there and just ball out, man. So, yeah, that looks pretty good for me. Next up, we got the Boston Celtics at 46.5. So, the Celtics won 36 games last year. Keep in mind there was 10 less games last year, too. But 46.5, I've been kind of saying it for a while that with the Celtics, I do see this very much so as a transition year. I think they're going to make a big move next NBA offseason. But this year, they're going to be better than last year. But 46.5 wins, I do have under on that, man. The Celtics should be in the running to make the NBA playoffs, but, new head coach. I'm going to say they probably didn't get everything they wanted last NBA offseason, or they didn't really make too many moves outside of getting guys like Dennis Schroeder and everything. So I'm going to say under on that, but, going to be big players in the next NBA offseason. Okay, next up we have the Brooklyn Nets at 56.5. So, obviously, it sounds like Kyrie Irving probably is not going to play, or if he does play, it's not going to be every single game, so that's already issues with that. Beyond there, you do have Kevin Durant and James Harden at the end of the day, but we do know both those guys, are notorious for being a tad bit injury prone at this point in their career, and they got a whole bunch of other old players and stuff like that. The Nets' focus is not going to be being the best team in the regular season. It's going to be healthy and be, ready to go chemistry-wise come playoff time. So 56.5, that's a lot. That's a lot of W's, right, man? I don't think they're going to be quite that. I think they're going to lose some games that they probably shouldn't, and they're going to be under that, but still probably around a 50-win team. Next up, we do have the Charlotte Hornets. So the Hornets last year, their record was 33 and 39. A big part was that LaMelo did miss quite a few games last season, and Gordon Hayward missed some games and stuff like that too. I do like the additions of, James Bouknight and even Kai Jones as they have listed here. Some much needed depth at the center position. 38.5, so that would put them right around roughly the same win percentage as last season, which has them just making the play-in tournament. I think that's a pretty good safe bet. I'm going to say under on that. I could probably see them being more like 36 wins, but pretty close to that line in the end of the day. But like I was saying earlier, man, the Eastern Conference is very tough, and plain simple, there's going to be teams that just have to lose games. We can't say over for every single team, because then that's assuming that nobody's ever going to lose, right? And that's just not the case. Okay, next up we do have the Chicago Bulls with a 42.5 win medium right there. Last year the Bulls had a record of 31 and 41, so this does put them a little bit higher in the win-loss department. The Bulls, I think, in my opinion, are one of my kind of sleeper teams. It's a highly motivated team between DeMar DeRozan looking to get a championship before he retires, or Lonzo Ball was looking to prove he was still worthy of that, one of those top picks in his draft class. You got Zach LaVine is looking to prove some things, man. Vucevic is always an underrated player. So I have them higher than 42.5 wins. I think the Bulls are going to be better than people expect, so I'm going to give them the over on this one. All right, next up, we do have the Cleveland Cavaliers at 26.5. So 22 wins last year. So, yeah, this puts them right around that 13th spot in the Eastern Conference. It looks like there's already some chemistry issues going on with Colin Sexton, as far as just they're not going to extend him his contract. So that could highly motivate him in one of two ways, where he goes out and puts up his stats and does not care about the rest of the team, or he tries to be more of a teammate with the sacrificial part of the stat line, right? So I don't know, man. I feel like Colin Sexton could end up being checked out when it's all said and done this season. They got some weird, personnel as far as like their lineup and how they run things. Like, Lauri Markkanen playing some small forward and stuff like that. I'm not really a big fan of. Kevin Love issues and everything. I'm gonna give him the under on this one, man. Yeah, Cleveland Cavaliers, bright future, sloppy roster right now. Okay, next up we do have the Dallas Mavericks at 47. I'm sorry, yeah, Dallas Mavericks at 47.5. Last year at 42 wins. This one, it's really hard to gauge. And I'm going to probably give them the over on this and probably put them around like the 48, 49 win mark. Luka Doncic obviously going to be going for an MVP. Very well could get this season. Kristaps is pretty good in the regular season. It's the playoffs that's the concern. So yeah, I'm going to give them the over on this one. And I'm going to think the Dallas Mavericks are going to be pretty damn solid. And yes, they didn't bring in too much as far as new players, but their system they have is already pretty good. Okay, next up, we do have the Denver Nuggets, also with 47.5, so they were a 47-win team last season, so this actually has them backtracking a little bit, considering, the more games and everything. So do I think the Nuggets are going to backtrack? I mean, they don't have Jamal Murray to start the season. Like, that's very important. He very well could miss the entire regular season. And, Michael Porter's paid. He's going to be more improved. But, I just feel like it's irresponsible to give the Denver Nuggets the over on this one, considering Jamal Murray and the impact. I feel like it's disrespecting Jamal Murray and what he does for the Denver Nuggets. So I'm going to give them the under on this, but hopefully everybody's, ready to go come playoff time. Okay, next up we do have the Detroit Pistons at 25.5. So they were a 20-win team last season. So this puts them roughly around the same range. And, I've checked out the Pistons roster, or I'm sorry, I've checked out their schedule. It's a very tough schedule for the Pistons this year. There's going to be a lot of fun games. It's going to be fun watching Cade Cunningham, come along, no pun intended, on this team. But 25.5, man, I think they're better than the worst team in the NBA, and that puts them roughly at the worst team in the NBA. So, trying to be unbiased here. I don't think they're going to be a playoff team or a play-in team, but I don't think they're going to be the worst team either. So I'm going to give them the over on this, but not by much. Not by much. I just feel like Cade Cunningham being the number one pick has to be good for something for this team. So, yeah, man, putting them in the same circumstance last year, but now having Cade and improve Sadiq Bey, Isaiah Stewart, I just don't think it's right. So I'm going to give them the over. Okay, next up we do have the Golden State Warriors at 47.5. And I'm going to give them the under on this. Now, as you guys do know, I do have the Golden State Warriors as one of my favorite teams to win the championship. But I also recognize the team's not the same without Klay Thompson. And Steph Curry, Jordan Poole, and Draymond Green, James Wiseman, their job early on this season is going to have to be to, get this team into a situation where, okay, we're at least in the playoffs once Klay Thompson gets back. And then once Klay Thompson comes back, you work on chemistry and getting things ready. But the goal is going to be simply to make the playoffs. It does not matter the seeding on this. And, I think there might be, I think Steph Curry has an MVP caliber season, but maybe they don't win every single game they would if they would have had a fully healthy Klay Thompson. Next up, we do have the Houston Rockets with 26.5. So last year they were a 17-win team. Having Jalen Green, Kevin Porter, and a lot of their other, young bloods out there, Sengun. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. I do think early on there might be some chemistry issues. Kevin Porter is going to be playing the point guard position, which he did last year a little bit, but obviously it led to a 17-win season. And, so there might be some chemistry along those lines. Jalen Green, how many shots is he going to take and everything? 26.5. I'm going to give him the under on that. They're going to be a more improved team. But, plus 10 wins, I'm not quite sure about that. I think it's definitely a year of development and chemistry for the Houston Rockets, and there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. Okay, next up, we do have did we skip the Indiana Pacers? Wait. Oh, I think no, we're good. We have the Indiana Pacers at 42.5. Last year with a record of 34-38. Man, difficult. New coach, Rick Carlisle, which Rick Carlisle is historically a good NBA coach. The roster should be healthy, having TJ Warren back, who is also around a 20-point per game scorer when he's trying. I like Chris Duarte. 42.5 just feels about right. Okay, I'm going to give them the over on this, because the Pacers, when healthy, which is a very rare case, tends to be one of those teams that does better than we all expect. when we sleep on them. So I'm going to give them the over on this one, man. I'm going to give them the over, okay? Next up, we have the LA Clippers at 44.5. They were a 47-win team last year. So this has them taking a little bit of a dip, which makes sense because of... Kawhi Leonard's going to be out for the season and everything. I do think Paul George is going to play like an MVP. I really do. He's one of those guys that I know can step up. It's just a matter of they have the rest of the other guys out there to help them get to that 42-win mark. And 42 wins, I mean, I'm going to give them the under on that. I'm going to say around a 40-win team, which in theory makes them, around like the 7th or 8th seed, which I think is fair, considering Kawhi is going to be out. But the goal, once again, for this Clippers team is going to be to just get to the playoffs, right? So that's what they have to do. So, yeah, I'm going to give them the under on that, but that's just respect towards Kawhi Leonard. Okay, next up, we got the Los Angeles Lakers at 52.5. So this puts them around, a top 2 or 3 seed on the season. The Lakers are really tough because they have the talent and the personnel to do so. But, is the chemistry going to be there with Russell Westbrook and the rest of the guys? How much load management is going to be going on? How are injuries going to affect this team? Lakers, man, they got so much depth though, which is the thing. So I'm going to give the Lakers the over on this. I think LeBron is going to play more this season than we probably expect. And I think the whole team as a whole is going to be, extremely motivated and everything. And Anthony Davis is healthy. Obviously one of the better big guys of our generation. I'm going to give them the over, man. I think this Lakers team's going to be around 54 win team on the season. Okay, next up, we do have the Memphis Grizzlies at 41.5. So this would have them roughly making the play-in tournament. I'm looking right now at the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference. And I think the Memphis Grizzlies are definitely at least a play-in tournament team. I'm going to give them the over on this. I think they get around 42, 43 wins and make the tournament, or maybe sneak into the 7th or 8th spot of the Western Conference, man. Yeah, okay. Alrighty, next up we do have the Miami Heat. So the Miami Heat to me seem like one of those, they're just going to be a really good regular season team. I mean, I'm not saying they can't be a good playoff team, but I think they're going to be a good regular season team. 48.5, I think they're going to finish top 3. I'm going to give them the over on this one. I think they get around the 50-win mark this season, having Kyle Lowry, and I think that Tyler Hero is going to have, maybe a career year for him, but, going in his 3rd season. Okay, next up we do have the Milwaukee Bucks, 53.5, giving them the over on this. The Bucks, they have Giannis. Yes, Chris Middleton, Drew Holiday are probably going to be a little fatigued at some point, but or not. Maybe they'll just be fine, right? But no, I have the over for the Milwaukee Bucks. No reason for me to give them the under on this one. They know how to get it done in the regular season. Okay, next up we got the Minnesota T-Wolves. This is going to be an interesting team. 23-win team last year. They have amassed 35 wins this year. I do think they're going to be right up there with, with the Grizzlies as fighting for a play-in tournament spot. They're going to be better than teams like the Rockets, the Thunder, the San Antonio Spurs, who are really going into a heavy rebuild and everything. Minnesota T-Wolves at 35, man, that's plus 12. But they also spent a majority of the season without some of their best players, so it's definitely capable. And last year, at the end of the year, they looked really well, man. I'm going to give them the over. I'm going to give them the over, just barely, but I think they get around like that high 30-win mark. And I think that's a pretty good step for them this year. Okay, next up we do have the Pelicans. So I think Jonas Valanciunas is a huge improvement over Steven Adams as far as guys that fit next to Zion. Now Zion's already going into the year with injury issues and body issues and stuff like that, man. Ingram's always great. Devontae Graham not as good as Lonzo Ball, but could be something. Maybe he sneaks up. They got Alexander Walker, which could be contention for a really improved player this year. 38.5. I think Zion's good for 40 wins. I'm going to give him the over on this. Going to give him the over. Okay, next up we do have the New York Knicks. So New York Knicks at 41.5, last year record of 41. So they actually have this Knicks team taking a bit of a dip when you look at the win-loss percentage. And I do not think that is the case. I feel like this team, so many of the issues that they had last year, especially as having like more shot creators for Julius Randle, I think they fixed that with Evan Fournier and Kemba Walker. Mitch Robinson healthy. That's going to help out the defense even more than Nerlens Noel already did last year. Yeah, you definitely have to give the Knicks the over on this one. Definitely the over. Okay. Next up, we have the OKC Thunder at 23.5. They were 22 wins last year. I'm going to give them the under on this one. I do think the OKC Thunder, with Pokusevski and Teo Maldon and obviously Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and even Josh Giddey, he's looked really good, in preseason and everything like that. It's going to be a fun year. They're going to put up some numbers. We're going to really see, what some of these guys are all about. But, it's not going to lead to W's, and there's nothing wrong with that. Going to give them the under, and yeah, they kind of need a lottery pick, a really good lottery pick anyway, man. I feel like this team is a Paolo Banchero away from really taking that next step. Okay, next up, we do have the Orlando Magic at 22.5, giving them the under on this. I do think the Magic end up getting the worst record in the NBA. That's not me sleeping on the Magic, but in the end of the day, somebody has to have the worst record. It could be the Thunder, it could be the Magic, it could be the Pistons. But the Magic have too much of a good thing in the guard position and a lot of young guards, which could lead to, big-time chemistry issues and just guys not really getting to showcase their full potential. It's going to be a lot of probably different lineups this team runs this year, but I'm going to give them the under on it, guys. I'm going to give them the under, okay? Okay, next up, we do have the Philadelphia 76ers at 50.5. So it looks like Ben Simmons might play. I don't really know what's going on there, man. What I do know is they do have Joel Embiid, and Joel Embiid is top 2 center in the NBA. Given out, depending on the season, he's the best center of the NBA, depending on how he's doing compared to Jokic. Like, those guys kind of 1A, 1B, right? So, I think that Joel Embiid has to be good for 50 wins just by himself. Of course, you got Tobias Harris and players like that. Tyrese Maxey could really have a improved season, especially Ben Simmons isn't playing. So, I'm going to give them the over on that, man. Around, like, that low 50, 52, 53 win team. Okay, next up, we do have the Phoenix Suns. So, 50.5 for them. Last year at 51. I'm going to give them the over and put them right around that 51 win mark. The team is very complete. Obviously losing the championship can have two effects on your team next year. It can either motivate you to get even better, or it could be just such an emotional shock that you just don't really bounce back and you don't have that extra gear factor to get to the next level. I don't think that's the case for the Phoenix Suns. The Phoenix Funds, man. The Phoenix Funds, guys. It's a good time. So yeah, Chris Paul, I think he's going to come in motivated, man, and I'm going to give him the over on this, but just barely, 51, 52 win team. Okay, next up, we do have the Portland Trailblazers. So new coach with Chauncey Billups, pretty much the same team, didn't make too many changes, which I was not a big fan of. So last year, they were at 42 wins, so this has them right around that same range at 44.5, maybe a little less, but I'm going to give them the under on it. I think around 43 wins is probably what the Portland Trailblazers get. Just having a new head coach and everything is going to be different, but it could be good too. Maybe Chauncey ends up getting coach of the year and coaching this team to a 50-plus win season. Okay, next up, we do have the Sacramento Kings at 35.5. Last year with a record of 31, so this puts them roughly at around the same mark. I'm going to give them... Man, I just want to be yeah, that's the record. Okay, I'm going to give them the under and say 35 wins. I think they're closer to having that 35 wins than the 36 wins. Not that big a difference, but yeah, I'm going to give them the under on that and say they're right around that same range. Okay, next up, we do have the San Antonio Spurs at 28.5, giving them the under on this, man, just because, it's a team that essentially needs to go into the season with the mindset of tanking, which I know Greg Popovich would never actually do, but they don't have DeMar DeRozan, who put up really good numbers last year for the team, despite what you want to say about him and, his fit and everything, but yeah, gonna be a really good season for guys like Keldon Johnson, but not gonna lead to a lot of W's. Okay, next up, we do have the Toronto Raptors at 35.5. Without even looking at the record, man, I'm giving them the over on this. One of my big sleeper teams, one of my big bounce back teams. Playing with a completely healthy roster, playing on their home court again. It's going to be a good season for the Raptors, man. And Scotty Barnes is going to be a contention for Rookie of the Year. Okay, next up, we do have the Utah Jazz at 51.5. Going to give them the over on that. I would not be surprised if the Jazz end up with the best record in the Western Conference next year again. They're just kind of built for that. And not saying that means that they're going to win the championship, but, some teams are regular season teams, and I think the Jazz are one of them. And next up, we do have the Washington Wizards with 33.5. So last year, they had a record of 34 wins, so this actually has them being a worse team than last year. I don't think that's the case. I think chemistry-wise, this team's going to be a bit better. I have them maybe around the 35-36 win mark. I'm going to give the Washington Wizards the over on this, and Bradley Beal is going to lead the NBA in scoring. So that's all we have for this video, man. Hope you guys all enjoyed the NBA season. Hopefully you guys all enjoyed this type of video, by the way, too. That's all we got. Thank you all so much for watching, and peace out.